Today, I'm going to show you how to create butterbeer in several different fashions, and I'm going to show you how to create the iconic frothy foam. One of the key components of butterbeer is the frothy foam on top. And I was just in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and I was able to drink a whole bunch of butterbeer because I went to the Orlando Informer event where all of your food and non-alcoholic beverages included, which includes as much butterbeer as you can drink. So I was able to analyze the top of the foam that they use really closely. And I came to the conclusion that it's not just a whipped cream because it doesn't just dissipate and start to melt into the beverage like whipped cream would, which led me to believe that it had something else in it that gave it a little bit more stability. So I was trying to think of what that would be, and I kind of came to the conclusion that it was potentially marshmallow fluff. So I went scouring on the web to find a recipe that included marshmallow fluff in the foam, and I found a YouTuber named Ashley Marie, and she has a recipe where she made her foam with marshmallow fluff. So I'm going to follow her recipe for the marshmallow fluff foam because I actually think it's pretty darn close to the one you can get in the parks and has a very similar consistency. So for that, we're going to use 3.5 ounces of marshmallow fluff, which is about half of this size container. We're going to use 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and we're going to use 2 tablespoons of butterscotch. Now, I'm going to use my hand mixer this time, but again, I have put my bowl and my beaters in the fridge just because it's going to help our whipping cream whip up a little bit quicker. Now, for this one, we're not going to whip it to stiff peaks because we want it to be a little bit looser so that you get that really good frothy quality that you can get in the parks on your butterbeer. Okay, so I have my cold mixing bowl and my beaters out of the fridge, and I've already put my 3.5 ounces of marshmallow fluff in there as well as my 2 tablespoons of butterscotch sauce. And now I'm just going to add my heavy whipping cream. And now we're going to whip this up. Okay, so we are just before you would get stiff peaks, and I think that's a perfect consistency for our foam. Now that we have our yummy foam made, I'm going to show you the easiest of the butterbeers to make, and that is the cold butterbeer, because all you need to add is some butterscotch sauce and some cream soda and then top it with our yummy foam. And honestly, all of the brands of cream soda are very tasty. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So today I'll be using, I believe it's pronounced Sprecher, but that's the brand I'm going to use today. But I have used IBC's brand, Barks, you name it, I've tried it. And I think all cream sodas are pretty tasty. The first thing you're going to do for this is just add a little bit of butterscotch sauce to the bottom. And you don't have to be super specific with this. I feel like about a tablespoon is good. And then we're going to add just a tiny bit of our cream soda. And at this point, we're going to mix our butterscotch into our cream soda, because if we were to do this with the whole thing, we'd lose all of our carbonation, and you don't want to lose that. Because the cold butterbeer in the parks definitely has the carbonation factor. Okay, so once it's mixed in, we're then going to top it off with the rest of our cream soda. And you want to make sure that you leave enough room for our yummy foam. Now, you'll notice that we got this foaminess here, like you would get with a root beer float. We're actually going to remove that because I want to have room for our butterbeer cream instead of this kind of frothy cream. Okay, so I'm going to give it one last little stir to make sure that it's all incorporated. And then we're going to top it off with our luscious foam. And I love the foam, it's my favorite part, so I will always put more foam on than not. And there you have it, a cold butterbeer. Super simple and super yummy. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to create a frozen Frappuccino style butterbeer. So I created this recipe when I did my niece's 11th birthday party. My niece does not like carbonated beverages, and even the frozen butterbeer at Universal has the carbonation from the cream soda. So I was bound and determined to make a frozen butterbeer that was not going to be carbonated, but was still going to give the essence and the taste of a butterbeer. So we are going to do a single serving here. So if you're going to do more than one serving, you can just double, quadruple, whatever you need to do the recipe to make as many servings as you need. So we are going to use 1 cup of ice, 1 cup of milk, some butterscotch sauce, some classic caramel syrup, and some vanilla syrup, as well as just a little bit of our butterscotch pudding. So for this, we're just going to throw it all into the blender and we're going to mix it together. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the caramel and the vanilla syrup, but about 2 tablespoons of each or less. It just kind of depends on how sweet you want it. And when I was serving a bunch of 11-year-old girls, they wanted it sweet, so sweet they got. And when you're making a bunch of these for like a party, you're just kind of eyeballing it. You know, same thing with the butterscotch pudding, just about a tablespoon or so. We're going to cap it up and start to blend it. And I'm going to serve this up. I've loaded my cup with my Frappuccino Butterbeer, and now we're going to top it off with our foam. And we have our frozen Frappuccino style butterbeer. Another thing I want to show you guys how to make is Butterbeer Ice Cream bonbons. So I'm actually going to use our Butterbeer Ice Cream that we made in the last video, and I'm going to put a link to that up above as well as at the end of the video. And I'm going to use some of our cream that we've been putting on the tops of these other Butterbeer recipes. Now, some of this is very similar to how we start to make our Butterbeer bombs, and we're going to use the same mold and the same chocolates. So we're going to use the salted caramel meltables as well as some white chocolate candy melts. And then we're going to be using some shortbread cookies, and I like to use round ones so that they fit a little easier. And this brand of Walker's is by far the best tasting store-bought shortbread cookies you can find. So I highly recommend these. There's only a few ingredients. They're really, really good. And we'll be able to put these together and you'll have a single serve, really awesome ice cream bonbon treat. So the first step of these is to coat your half spheres with the salted caramel chocolate. You could also do white chocolate, you could do regular chocolate, anything like that will be just fine. But I went ahead and did this step ahead of time so then that way these were set so that we can go ahead and do the rest of it for you here. Now you can do this with any type of ice cream, you can do it with any brand of ice cream, you can put any kinds of things inside of it that you'd like. So if you wanted to add some nuts, you could. If you wanted to add a little bit of butterscotch or caramel, you definitely could. But we are going to do 2 different slight variations. So I'm going to add some of our Butterbeer cream. I'm going to put that right in the bottom because that's actually going to end up being the top. I'm going to take a little bit out of this one and add it in over here. And I'm going to do the same thing with these 2. Then we're going to take our ice cream, which I have scooped here. But if you didn't want to use an ice cream that is store-bought or one that you already have frozen, if you were making this mix from scratch like we made in the other video, you could actually pipe that mix before it gets frozen in here and then freeze it that way. But since we already have it frozen, I'm going to show you guys how to do it with pre-existing ice cream. So we're going to take our ice cream and we are going to place it in here. And if you want it to be a little bit softer, you could always throw it in the microwave on defrost for just a couple seconds to just kind of help soften it up a little bit. Okay, so I've roughly placed my ice cream in here. Now, I'm going to do a couple of these with the shortbread cookies, and I'm going to do a couple without because I want you guys to see the difference. Now, if you don't want to use a shortbread cookie, you could also do the round waffle cone chips you can get. You could put an Oreo cookie. The sky's the limit. You can really do whatever. You could also do crumbled up graham crackers, anything like that. It just kind of adds a little crunch and is really yummy. But I like shortbread cookie when it comes to butterbeer. So you're going to take your cookie and you're going to kind of press it in. And you're going to see some of that foam come up, and it's okay, because you can just scoop that off. It doesn't matter how messy these look in this step because they'll still end up looking beautiful in the end. All we want to do is try to level it out as much as possible. And 2 of these I'm going to make without the cookie, so you can just see the ice cream version. If you haven't seen my video of how to make this butterbeer ice cream, I highly recommend watching it. This ice cream is delicious and super easy. Okay, so I'm going to finish these 2 and we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to finish them off. Okay, so now that I have all of these covered, I have the 2 with cookies and 2 without. We're going to throw these in the freezer, and you want to freeze them for at least an hour to make sure that they are good and hard, and then we're going to top them with some more of our chocolate so it kind of encapsulates the ice cream, so then that way it makes it less easy to melt all over the place when you're trying to use it for a party, etc. Okay, it's been an hour, so I just pull these out of the freezer. I've got some more of my melted salted caramel chocolate here, and we are going to coat the backs of these, and then we're going to put them back in the freezer until that becomes solid, and then we can pop them out of their molds, and I'll show you how we can decorate them up. Now, because our ice cream is frozen, it's already making the chocolate hard pretty much on contact, but we're going to put it in the freezer for just a minute or 2, pull it out, and I'll be able to show you how to finish these. Okay, I just pulled these out of the freezer, so now we're going to unmold them. And again, the easiest way to unmold these is to kind of pull out from the chocolate you've put in there so that you don't have any snapping on the edges. Okay, so as you can see, I've kind of made a foil tray with the edges folded up so that when I drizzle my chocolate, and I'm going to use a little bit of some little sprinkle nonpareils type thing on here to kind of add a little bit of something to it, but to keep those from rolling all over the counter, that's why I have rolled up the edge. I have loaded a piping bag with some white chocolate. I just snipped the end. Now, again, this chocolate is going to harden very quickly because these are frozen. So anything you want to sprinkle on these, you want to do it pretty quick. And obviously you don't have to put any sprinkles on these, but you could also do house-colored sprinkles, anything like that. It just kind of adds a little something to it, and it will also hide any fingerprints that you might get on the actual domes themselves. So I'm going to give these a second to dry, and we're going to move them to our plate. So here we have our little bonbons, and I'm going to cut one open so you can see what it looks like. And as you can see, we have the cookie, the ice cream, and the chocolate. So these make a really yummy, complete treat. The next butterbeer I'm going to show you is my hot butterbeer. And I actually showed you guys how to make some hot butterbeer bombs back in the winter. So I'll put a link up above to that video, and I'll also put it at the end. But I'm going to make this for you guys and show how we can top it with that same yummy foam. And all we do for this is add 8 ounces of hot milk. And I'm going to tell you guys, I finally got to try the hot butterbeer in the parks because every time I've gone in the past, it was out of season. Well, now Universal has made hot butterbeer a staple all year round. So I was finally able to try it. And not to toot my own horn, but I totally nailed it, guys. This recipe tastes just like the hot butterbeer in the parks. And I actually think maybe even a smidge better just because it has a little bit more salt, which I think balances out the sweetness of the butterscotch, since we use the salted caramel chocolate on here. And if you can't get the salted caramel chocolate and you use white chocolate, definitely add some salt to the mix, just so then that way you get a little bit of a break from the sweet and it balances it out. And now we're going to top this off with some of our foam. I do have to say the hot butterbeer in the parks was definitely my favorite of the 3. But I do enjoy just a plain cold butterbeer as well. If you were going to be making a lot of these, you definitely could put your cream into a piping bag just to help get it onto the beverage a little bit quicker than just spooning it up. And there we have our luscious hot butterbeer made from our butterbeer bombs, topped with our delicious frothy foam. And while we're talking about butterbeer, I just wanted to remind you that in my Etsy shop, I do sell the butterbeer candle that I showed you guys how to make in the Wizard's Craft book. Mine is 100% soy and has a nice clean burn and smells like vanilla and butterscotch with a super rich smell. And I'll put the link in the description down below. And there you have it, our butterbeer in several different ways, enough for every season of the year. This would be great to have for a party or a movie night, and honestly, it is just plain delicious, so it's good whenever you want to have it. So if you guys like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.